Today's conversation is a deeply nourishing one. I'm joined by Vandana, a healer, a teacher, and a guide whose work centers on divine timing, inner child, and ancestral healing, and also reconnecting with the wisdom within. Vandana is truly a light worker and an inner child mentor. She's especially known for her soothing voice, compassionate presence, sacred and safe space that she provides to all her clients. Her work integrates the reparenting, the inner child, ancestral medicine, intuitive development, and nervous system regulation, offering a safe space of deep peace and resilience even amidst chaos. In today's episode, we explore how healing past wounds and trauma supports intentional, purpose-driven living. We talk about reparenting the inner child, connecting with spirit, connecting with your spirit guides, and how energy healing can support balance in daily life. She also provides some simple practices for regulating the nervous system. Stay till the end so you can see and listen and hear that 5-minute meditation. This is a conversation you don't want to miss. So grab a cup of something warm. Let's settle in and get cozy and have a listen. Vandana, I just want to say thank you for agreeing to come on the Go Slow to Go Fast lifestyle podcast, and welcome.
And thank you as well. I am happy to be here. It's an honor to be with you. Cheers.
Yes, cheers. Wherever you are in the world, right? Anybody listening and watching, we're having our cup of something. I'm drinking tea because it's a little
stay
chilly.
Hydrated.
Yep, gotta stay hydrated. So before I get into your story, can you just kind of share for listeners and viewers what you do to go slow to go fast?
I love the title of your podcast, Kendra. Thank you for naming it that. I think I've been forced by the universe this past year, 2025, has been a doozy to really slow down. And sometimes we have to take a few steps back to take a few steps forward. And although there's been a ton of resistance in doing that, I know that this is the energy medicine, the wisdom from the universe. And sometimes if we don't pay attention to this wisdom, to this intelligence, it can go sideways. So we're not going backward or forward, but we're actually moving sideways, which is a really uncomfortable place to be. It's very dysregulating and disorienting, I think. So yeah, that's my little take on going slow to go fast. And in this time, I've had a lot of very sacred moments of self-reflection and inquiry, self-inquiry, kind of figure out like where I fit, what my message is, what my passions are, and to try to just check in with my inner child and see what's happening, and why do things sometimes happen the way they do? Why does life play out in the way it does? It sometimes seems so unfair for some, but more than fair for others. So after all that self-reflection, I came to the conclusion that I am on the right path, that I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing, that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be on my spiritual path as well. And it took a long time. I mean, some people it takes lifetimes to get to the point of self-acceptance. Like, okay, trust. That's what this life is really all about. Why we're here is to remember how to trust life and to trust our own wisdom. I think that we often forget that. And so sometimes it takes a lifetime, sometimes it takes a year or 10 or 20 years. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful for this time, even though I fought it tooth and nail. I had an accident. I actually fell and I broke my ankle back in May. And then I had another accident 3 months later after I had healed. Was it 3 months later? I'm trying to remember. Well, it was a little while later after I had already healed. So it wasn't like a break, but it was a shock to my nervous system. And that made me really stop and I guess freeze, went into the freeze, not the fight or flight, but the freeze. And I'm just grateful for the moments because I was speaking with a Sufi master, a colleague of mine, and they said to me something that I didn't quite resonate with at the time, but now I really get it. And that's basically like whatever happened to you could have not happened. Does that make sense? Like it was going to happen wherever you were, whatever the circumstances were. It could not have happened. And I was like, oh, I get it. Because, our ego, we call it nafs in Sufi language, the nafs, Nafs, they get in the way and they want to put meaning where there is no specific meaning. And and they tell us that we're wrong or what we did was bad or if only I didn't go out and meet this friend, I would be fine. But that's not necessarily the case. So there's always a learning, there's always a teaching, you know, in the greatest of tragedies. And luckily it wasn't a tragedy, but it was really a hard time in my life. So I was forced to slow down. Years ago, I remember this angel reader told me, like, if you don't slow down, the universe is going to force you to, and it's better that you just try to maintain a balance, a flow. So you're here, you're you're present in every moment, but you're not overdoing it. And I do have a tendency to overdo and all of that good stuff. So yeah,
Yeah, and I'm glad to
that's my
hear that.
experience.
It's great that you're on the other side of your fall and that your, healing is going well.
Oh yeah, it healed in June, July. In August it was like completely healed. So it's about a 3 month. But I was, out of the boot and everything after 6 weeks. It was just kind of like almost like a relearning how to walk, how to feel, how to track my presence in the world, my movements. Um, just noticing my gait and noticing what might have felt different before and after. And also, I think relearning how to trust my body's awareness. And I think I wasn't embodied. I was really out of my body when it happened. I was rushing, like most of us do, and wasn't in my body, wasn't grounded, trying to get on a train, trying to get home. And like we said, like no matter how many times you run that scenario in your mind over and over again, the results will still have been the same. And what is the teaching? What have I learned about myself? And I learned a lot. I learned a lot, things that I didn't want to notice that I was pushing away or in denial about. I was like, yeah, I do have a tendency to caretake others and not make enough time in my own days to care for myself. So that that whole period of being in bed for a month or so and walking around in that really uncomfortable heavy boot taught me a lot about myself, how to take better care of myself and how to receive help from others, which is something that I really never learned growing up. I was always the one that took care of everyone else, including, you know, my mother mostly. And I mean, I'm talking about not physically, but emotionally and psychologically as a child, even. So these are programs that we learn very young. So I think sometimes life has to really like shake us up a little bit for us to pay attention.
Yes. No, agreed.
Yes.
I think when we met in our pre-chat, I also shared that I had fallen recently. It's just in the home with our pet. Our dog was in the way, and it probably
That
took
darn
me.
dog.
I know, and it
Just
probably
kidding.
took a good I mean, it's probably 6 to 9 weeks, and it was right before the holidays. My
Hmm.
wrist, I totally fell in a really bad position, and I think I hit both of my wrists falling down. And,
Hmm.
I'm the one that's going to be baking and cooking and decorating, and all of that had to be put on pause. I had
Yeah.
to just let it go and take my time. But And you're an energy healer. You work with, inner child healing and somatic, just healing. So I think, this is
Yeah.
a very timely conversation to be thinking about listeners and viewers out there. You might not be dealing with a physical um, issue right now, but when you
Mhm.
do, it's going to happen. It's a human experience. We're all going to fall at some point, literally, or, in other ways in our life, and we're going to have to pick up the pieces and learn to do things differently. So can you kind of walk us through like what to think about when you're dealing
Yeah.
with either something's coming up in your memory and you're dealing with an issue or a hurt from childhood, or
Oh
like you
yeah,
said, a physical
definitely. It's really, I'm a big believer in epigenetics, and a lot of my work revolves around generational trauma. And I really my greatest passion is to support survivors of childhood trauma. And I realized, like, when I fell twice last year, and it felt like a pattern. Like, it wasn't an accident. I mean, it was, but it wasn't, I mean, unconsciously, if I was to look at it as like that the universe is not conspiring to support me, but is against me kind of thing. Like, it's not, the universe is not working with me or for me. But I didn't wanna, I'm way past that stage. So I realized that there have been a lot of injuries and falls in my family. Starting with my mother. My mother, when she was alive, did tell me that she fell when she was around the same age that I had. I was with sitting between my parents in the front seat of a car, and the driver in front of us stopped short and we smashed into them. It wasn't like a major accident, but I did bump my nose against the dashboard and probably broke it. And then she said, when I was 5, when I was your age, or maybe it was 4, I fell too. I was like running on the sidewalk and I fell and I broke my nose. And then she's like, and your grandmother did too. And I was like, oh, that's bizarre. And that's just an example of injuries, accidents, illnesses, whatever it is, betrayals, losses, um, all those different forms of trauma repeating themselves, and especially at the same age. Because if you look at your age now, and if you can do the math, and if you know enough about your family members, if you look at what they were going through at your age now, it's a really interesting exercise to understand, like, if you're having a particularly difficult year, what was happening in your mother's life when she was your age, or when you were, let's say, 13 years old. For me, that was like the turning point of my life. It was very, very difficult, very painful year. And I think about, like, what happened to my mother when she was 13, or my grandmother, and all of these things, everything starts to make sense. Everything starts to fall into place, these patterns, that until someone steps forward and disrupts those painful patterns, that it's going to continue and it's going to keep playing out and influence the lives of our descendants, whether we have children or not, like the ones that come after us. And this, so it's not our fault. I think that helps me to realize, like, wow, this didn't start with me. I'm not just a clumsy person, though maybe a little bit. But why is that? Well, the body type, the genetics, the lifestyles, the thoughts, the feelings, the unprocessed wounded feelings, all of that plays a part. But it does take a very brave, courageous soul, a cycle breaker, I call it. And that's what I teach in all my workshops, to really end that cycle and to say, no, this isn't mine, didn't start with me, and it doesn't belong to me. I'm just going to return it to its rightful owner, wherever it came from. And so we return it to, like, the first ancestor um, that created, or not that they created the event, but they experienced some type of tragedy, some type of loss. And then that misunderstanding was never dealt with. And so again, it just gets passed on from one generation to another. So yeah, I think that that's really important to give ourselves a break and to forgive ourselves and to learn how strong we are. I mean, that's my takeaway. I was going to ask you what your takeaway was because you weren't able to be the provider and the caregiver and like the mother and father, so to speak, like to do everything for everyone, to fix every problem. You had to be the one, you were placed not accidentally in the role of receiving support, receiving instead of giving. So for me, it was the same thing. I just learned to accept that I deserve to be cared for and it's okay to ask for help. And when you
Mm-hmm.
grow up in a family that's sort of really dysfunctional and you didn't receive that support, and the only way you could stay safe and protect yourself is to pretend that everything's okay and to mask your feelings and to become a perfectionist and a people pleaser and all that good stuff. And then it's like, oh my goodness. So that to me at least was the scariest part of this,
Yeah. No,
like
it's,
having
yeah.
my son take care of me. And I just thought like everything was going to fall apart. And it was very scary in the beginning. It wasn't uh easy at
Mm-hmm.
all. But I believe that the universe is always trying to create balance and harmony. And if your life is out of balance, then the universe will always try to fix that for you. If you're not willing to or if you can't do it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What about
Yeah.
your experience when you broke your wrist
Yeah.
and you couldn't make dinner and do everything, wash the dishes and all?
Mm-hmm.
How
I
is it for
think,
you? What did you learn about yourself that you didn't even know was inside of you, right?
yeah. Yeah. Well, I think the universe was trying to get me to literally slow down so I could enjoy my family and not get worked up on all the things that have to happen in, my thought process for what the holidays look like. I mean, it
Yeah.
happened. I think it happened. I want to say it happened between Halloween, which is a big holiday in my household, between Halloween and Thanksgiving. So, I mean, it was like I just had to
Hmm.
slow down and take stock and enjoy. And so I've really found myself just saying, you know what? I don't have to put out all the decorations this year and it's going to be okay.
Right.
I don't have to make all the dishes that I had in my, cookbook on my list of things I had to do. It's okay. And the kid, as long as I'm present, which I think is what the
Hmm.
universe was saying, just be present and enjoy this time
Hmm.
because you've also connected a dot for me as well because I'm also a genealogist. I do a lot of like checking
Oh,
on my
right. I
tree.
forgot. I want to definitely talk to you.
I'm
Not
all
now,
into
but
that.
another time,
Yeah.
because I too am very much into my ancestry and DNA and
Mhm.
where I come from, my
Mhm.
roots and everything. That's like my favorite show on PBS,
I
Finding Your Roots.
know.
So,
Yes, me
um,
too. Chills. Yes.
it's
And I
important.
love all that. Yes. But I think I'm starting to realize that, oh, and I've known it for a long
Yeah.
time, but it's hitting
Hmm.
me more so now that we
Yeah.
do carry down all that trauma from our families. Not only that, because I've been dealing with that trauma of like breaking cycles and acknowledging and thanking in all the ways of time, but also you made a point that there's a time in maybe your ancestor's life, like your parent or grandparent or, that was pivotal. My mom lost her father when she was 12. And for some reason, you have stories in your head and you just think it's a different time frame or a different age. This whole time I was thinking she was older. I thought she was like 14. She said
Mhm.
something to me over the holiday. No, I was 12. And then, of course, I had to go back and look at the tree and the dates and be like, yeah, she was 12. She was 12 and she lost her father. They were at the dinner table and he had a heart attack with the whole family right there. So that's been in her, memory, her
Mm.
body. And
Ourselves.
yeah. And then I was looking back at family tree stuff recently, and I lost my grandfather, who I was very close to, at 12.
That's what I was
So there
just
is
about to
a
ask you.
loss, a
Yep.
father figure loss. And now my children are going to be 12 next year. And I'm thinking, how can I
Okay.
make sure
Sometimes
we
it skips
resolve
a
this?
generation. It can
Okay.
skip a generation. And with your awareness
Mm-hmm.
and your presence
Mm-hmm.
and your consciousness, that can shift because
Okay.
you've been doing the inner work for a while now. This is not brand
Mm-hmm.
new work for
No.
you. And
Yeah.
so you already are aware
Mm-hmm.
of these patterns and that it doesn't have to continue because, you know, in this
What's it been
case,
teaching
you're
us?
not unconscious. You're not unconscious
Right.
about it. You're aware, like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
this can happen, but what if it doesn't have to happen?
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah.
I can make a different choice than they were able to. I can choose to live differently and
Mm-hmm.
authentically in a way
Mm-hmm.
that feels right for me.
Mm-hmm.
That was their stuff. It wasn't my
Yeah.
stuff.
Right.
And so my kids don't have to bear the burden of this,
Mm-hmm.
of their
Mm-hmm.
karma, their
Right.
difficult fate. And
Right.
so I think that that is important. And I think your kids will be just fine.
Yeah. And
That's my
it's not
reading.
like there shouldn't be a looming like black cloud over something like that. We should be
No,
able to just kind of say, okay, sit with it. Thank for, for whatever reason it needed to be passed down and for me to click because I just was like, oh, yeah, there's a similarity there.
and
Yeah.
also like the strength and the
Mm-hmm.
wisdom and the perseverance and the resilience, as well as like the resourcefulness that you have cultivated and collected in your toolkit, right? That
Mm-hmm.
you, as a result of their choices and their decisions are making a different decision for your children.
Yes.
And you can pass
Yes.
on this toolbox, this updated
Mm-hmm.
version of
Mm-hmm.
your ancestry to them.
Mm-hmm.
And
And
that's a beautiful thing.
it was the times of the age, but, unfortunately, both men were smokers. They did not take care of themselves, and we've
Yeah.
evolved to where we understand that cigarettes are not good for you and that can be
Right.
a whole other thing. And, I'm thinking the men in my life, the older men in my life, my husband, my father, they're not smokers. So hopefully, we've killed that cycle and moved on and learned
Yes.
from it.
And then also just a quick example in my personal life. His father, my son's father, my son's grandfather, and great grandfather all had chemical dependencies, substance
Mm-hmm.
abuse issues. And again, it was cultural, it was historical, they were from a different
Yeah.
country, different culture, and that's how
Mm-hmm.
they dealt with stress.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it still happens, I mean, it's all over the world. It's not like
Sure.
an unusual phenomenon just because they were from a particular European
Mhm,
country, let's say. But my son broke the cycle. I think
mhm.
as soon as he was born, he was like, no, this cycle ends with me. And he's
Yeah.
been straight edge ever since. He's never even
Mm.
had a sip of beer. And
Wow.
I just wonder how,
Mhm.
with all the influences and everything, but he is
Yeah,
neurodiverse and he is on the spectrum. And so I think that that is such a blessing
that
and a
is.
superpower. So I
Mhm,
thank God every day for that, and
mhm,
I think I don't know if it was conscious or unconscious, intentional or unintentional, but I think like his higher self, his wisdom, his soul kind of like
mhm,
came here to say like, yeah, I don't have to have the same fate as, the men in my family. So
mhm.
that turned out to be a very surprising but great event that
Mhm.
continues to this day. So
Yes.
that's just an example of a cycle breaker. Doesn't even have to
Mhm,
be us. It could be our children. I had a client on my call the other day, my workshop, about breaking the cycle of childhood trauma. And
mm,
she said, it's not even me, it's my son. She said, my son is the one that actually figured all this out and like
mhm.
broke the pattern. and pointed it out to me. I was like, that's a miracle. I mean, that's like such a blessing. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty
Yeah.
phenomenal. Yeah.
It is. It is. And I think we were meant to have this conversation for sure.
Yes.
Not just for,
Yeah.
my understanding and connection, but for anybody out there listening or watching. I think it's just good to think that you can make that change
I mean,
and
it's
do the inner work.
self-empowering. It's about
Mhm.
empowerment, and I love to empower people because I
Mhm.
didn't grow up feeling very powerful. I
Mm.
really grew up being put in a position of sort of being powerless. And I mean, it's taken years and years of doing the inner work, the deep inner work. The adult child, they have something called ACA, adult children of alcoholics or dysfunctional families. And I fall into the latter category because I didn't have any alcoholism that I know of in my recent tree. But you don't have to even take a drink to behave. It's called a para-alcoholic or para-alcoholism, to behave in a very chaotic, very unstable, ungrounded way. So the behaviors mimic each other. And so I did all that work, for years, and it's not easy. It's not a walk in the park. It's not something that you want to remember, but it is the most important sacred work that you can do for yourself, and not isolating like many of us tend to do, really connecting with others who have been there too. That's really important. So this work is not optional. It's mandatory, because if you think about it, if you don't resolve the unhealed wounds, what's going to happen? They're just going to keep accumulating layer upon layer
Mhm.
until you're going to be buried under it, where it could be a serious, like, where you can really crash and burn kind of thing, where you hit, they say, rock bottom,
Right.
and then sometimes you can hit rock bottom more than once, and that's really uncomfortable and painful. That's when your life becomes unmanageable, because of your dysfunction, that you never really healed it. So it is a process, and I always tell people this is a process. The healing doesn't happen overnight. You're not going to take that pill and then the next morning everything's going to be perfect in your life. So I think it's important to just understand that.
Yeah. And you talk a little bit about, you just shared a little bit that you had a difficult childhood with some trauma in that experience. So can you kind of talk us through a little bit about how you came to do the work that you do now?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. So again, it didn't happen overnight. I think it was a gradual evolution. Um, I think that I was always attracted to spirituality or to anything that was outside of the norm. I was always psychic, and I thought everybody else was psychic too. So that was interesting. I didn't have any adverse experiences that said to me, "Oh, okay, you need healing," when I was like 13 or 18. I think that it gradually, I always loved helping people. I always knew that people just like felt very comfortable opening up to me. And I think that led me eventually, because of my former husband, my son's father, and because of his problems and his addictions, I should say, which is a disease. That's when I decided to do something about it and quit my 9 to 5 boring job, and work for myself. And that happened in 2006. Became a Reiki master teacher. So that was the best thing I ever did. Deep dive. I took the dive off of the deep end, and I knew that I had the calling I had the soul calling, and my purpose is to help people. And that's how I started. But that was after years and years of a hellish marriage. Really scary, terrifying, unsafe. Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, walking on eggshells, and all of that. Um, but I also knew that I was here to do something more or greater than what I had been doing, which was really shrinking myself and playing small and pretending to be like everybody else just to fit in. After a while, that just doesn't work anymore. You know, you can't fit, what is that, a square peg into a round hole. And why would you want to? So I think that's really when I decided, like, I just have to be myself. I have to do what feels right. And I always loved touching people and healing people and just like counseling people. And it just, felt like a great fit. And I've been doing that ever since. So it looks different since 2013 because I'm working online with people all over the world, which is great. But I said to myself, I want to have a kind of job after Hurricane Sandy this happened where I could just live anywhere in the world and do my healing work. And that happened right after I asked the universe. So don't be afraid to ask. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think so many years of trying to heal him, trying
Mm,
to save him, literally, you know, I mean, years of just watching him self destruct.
mm,
I just felt so helpless again. And I knew I felt like I needed to do something to help him, to heal him. And then one day, I went to speak with his counselor, and his counselor said, "You know what? He has to want it. You can't rescue people because I've been doing that all my life at home. He has to really want it himself. You can't force him to heal." And I thought, okay. He's like, "Well, you just do you and let him do him." It's easier said than done.
mhm.
I mean, we had a very long marriage and I deeply loved him and cared about him. And I think that was kind of like the impetus to force me to do something a little scary and risky. And that's what I did. That was the best decision I ever made because I really found myself. I found my gifts. I found I'm an excellent writer and networker and speaker and podcaster,
Mm,
and healer, teacher, all of these roles. I never even knew that I could do all these things until
yeah.
I had to. And I
Mhm.
proved to myself time and time again that I can do anything, if I believe I can.
Yeah.
I mean,
And for
we're
listeners,
multidimensional. So, yeah, go ahead.
right, right. No, I think that it's fascinating that you found Reiki and it changed your trajectory. Can you share a little bit about what Reiki is for anybody who's not
Of
clear
course.
or has never heard of Reiki?
Reiki consists of two syllables. So there's Rei and Ki. So it's universal life force energy. It's universal, loving, uh, pure spiritual energy, chi. And
Mm,
it's divine. It connects you, it reconnects you to your divine self and your higher power. And it's hands on healing. And it can be done at a distance. It can be transmitted at a distance through the heart space because we don't only transmit Reiki through our healing hands. They say like Jesus was the first healer because he was a hands
mhm,
on healer and performed miracles. We're not claiming to perform miracles, but we are relaxing and calming and balancing the nervous system. We are
mm,
clearing out any toxins that we store in our chakras and our energy bodies and our emotional bodies. And it's very grounding. And anyone can give it, any age, from 2 years old to 102. So you can give it, you can receive it, you can send it at a distance, you could send it to your inner child. You could send it to a situation
Mm,
like a war or a genocide or a government or a monarchy or a
yeah.
trauma or an illness. And there are symbols that are involved as well. So
Mm,
there's a lot you can do with it. And I was offering it in person for years. And then around 2013, 2014, I started attuning people to it online.
mm.
Yeah. And
So that was
training
ahead of
other
the
Reiki.
curve before the pandemic.
Yeah,
You were
before
doing
the
work
pandemic,
online.
way before the
Yeah,
pandemic.
that's great. Yeah.
And because there's no such thing as time or space, so there's no obstacle there, you can send it anywhere. So
Mm,
it's really all about your intention. And Reiki can do no harm, only good. So we always send an intention to transmit whatever energies are missing or depleted from the person for their highest good. So
mm-hmm,
that's really important.
mm-hmm,
And it's also about embodying the spirit of Reiki and the precepts of Reiki, which stem from um, Tibetan Buddhism and also they say Zen Buddhism, but the founder was a Tibetan monk
mm.
and he would just attune people with his eyes,
Wow.
with silent healing, gazing, and transmission. So it's very magical and multidimensional.
Mm,
Um, it is a practice. So unfortunately, over the years, a lot of people have distorted it where they
mm.
would make it into a shortcut and teach it as a weekend. Like you can become a Reiki master in a weekend, but it doesn't really
Right.
work that way
Okay.
because you're
Mm,
really not honoring the origins of Reiki because it's a sacred practice, but it is really about self care first, self healing first. That's what Reiki 1 is about.
mm-hmm,
And then healing others and healing animals and plants and, you know,
mm-hmm.
crystals and all sentient beings.
Right.
And I still teach it now to this day online, but I shouldn't say online like remotely. I'm in person
Mm-hmm,
like I am with you.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In real
But
time.
it's very
Yeah.
gratifying. And it's something that everyone can benefit from, especially if you're stressed a lot. And
Yeah.
that was the case of my mother. She was just always angry and stressed. And that was a family thing, an ancestral pattern. If you do the genogram and you know about the family mapping, I did it the other day in a book called It Didn't Start With You, and it's by
Mm-hmm.
Mark Wolin, and I highly
Mm,
recommend that book. But
okay.
there's also a workbook, and there's a genogram, and you write down the patterns from your closest family members to, you know, grandparents and great grandparents. And I discovered a lot of, um, I think, betrayal and trust issues, but also injustice, anger, injustice. But if also we look at our great grandparents and great great grandparents, like in my lineage, there was a lot of displacement and migration and being forced out of their homes, having to move to another country.
Mm-hmm.
And when I think of that, that makes sense why I feel so safe staying in one place and why I'm like
Mm,
still in the same apartment for like 27 years
mm,
and deeply unhappy about it and have overgrown it, but still here. Again, that's an ancestral pattern. It served them. Does it serve me? No, sorry. No, sorry. So that's about it for that.
yeah. And, I think somatic healing or somatic work is, I can see the connection now, but I didn't really understand. It seemed like it was a buzzword for a
Mm.
while on the, social media, but it's really just movement to release energy,
With
right?
with the breath, with the assistance
Mm.
of our healing breath, which is an anchor,
Mhm.
because of our breath, because we're, thank goodness, alive and breathing, our breath has the power to move a lot of blocks and stuck energy, especially when we practice vagal breathing, our
Mm.
polyvagal nervous system. When you take a deep breath, you hold the breath for a few moments, and then you exhale longer, like 3 times as long as the
Mm.
in-breath.
Mhm.
That actually has the power to radiate all the way down from the top to the bottom of you, and it has the power to move a lot of blocks, and also
Mm.
to strengthen your immune system and heal your digestive system.
Mm.
And even if you place your hands over your heart and you just massage it,
Mhm.
that is also a polyvagal exercise.
Yeah.
Because if your vagus nervous system is off kilter, it can
Mhm.
affect your heart and your
Hmm.
stomach and your
Okay.
electrical wiring. So I've
Hmm.
learned to do that too to calm myself down. Yeah, it can
It's
literally
interesting.
affect your organs if your
Wow.
nervous system is unhealed,
Mm.
overstimulated, flooded with adrenaline and
Mm.
cortisol, those stress hormones. And so just little exercises like this and checking in with your heart, how are you feeling today? What's happening? Doing a check in before you go to bed, scanning your energy field for any disturbances that you're taking with you that don't belong to
Mhm.
you.
Mhm.
That's self hygiene or spiritual hygiene, you can call it, which is also part of
Right.
Reiki. So,
Okay.
yeah,
Good to know.
yeah.
It's I can see the connections, but I've not been trained in Reiki. It's on my list of, practices to explore one
On your
day.
bucket list. Yeah.
Yes. My spiritual bucket list for sure.
I think that Reiki is just being, is establishing a conscious connection with spirit and our higher power or our
Mhm.
higher self, which most of us aren't even told about growing up that we even have that. So that's
Mm-mm.
like the wisest, most ancient and immortal part of our soul, the soul that's omnipotent, that knows everything, that can feel everything, that is
Mm.
aware of everything that's happening here and on even other planets. Um,
Mm.
and the thing is, we're not taught to trust and tune into that part of our infinite being. And so I think Reiki is just a way of living. It's just
Mhm. Yeah. And I mean,
being in
we
our
could have
bodies.
no,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I was thinking like we could have another couple of podcast conversations about just organized religion versus,
Oh,
different
don't get me
practices that
started there.
right, right.
That is
But
something I've struggled with my
mhm.
entire life. And I'm sure
Mhm.
my ancestors
Mhm.
have also struggled with. I know
Mhm.
that to be true because they didn't want to have anything to do with religion, their
Yeah.
religion. And
Yeah.
of course, that traveled down onto me. So when I was given a choice when I was 13, you want to go, to
Mhm.
take your training. And I was like, no, I'm good. I'm good.
Mhm.
I don't want
Mhm.
to. I'm fine. I'm
Yeah.
spiritual. I didn't say that then or even think that. I didn't even know what
Right.
spiritual meant. But
Right.
I knew that it didn't resonate for me. And why didn't it resonate for me? Nobody told me
Mhm.
it's bad,
Mhm.
ancestral,
Mhm.
generational.
Mhm. Yeah. I
Why?
think
Because it was safer
yeah.
not to be religious for them,
Mm.
not to be singled out for their
Mm.
religion. And so
Mm.
they just shut down. They just shut it down. They collapsed it. And now I'm just more like an interfaith person, like a universalist. I see the
Mhm.
beauty and the love and the intelligence and the peace from all of the major religions. And
Yeah.
now I'm playing more with Sufism. So I'm doing a lot of Sufi practices. And
Mhm.
chanting the divine names and the divine qualities. And that to me is very healing and feels very embodied, very loving. But
Mhm.
most religions, unfortunately, don't teach the spiritual aspect. Some do, but most, I think, don't. So they're missing out on
Yeah.
the major reason why we even have religions. But
Right.
yeah,
And
that's another conversation for sure.
yeah. Yeah, because I think if you peel back all of the doctrine from all the major religions and you go back to the source, they all
Yeah.
have that thread, that common thread of
Yes,
it's really source, higher self,
that's
universe,
right.
God source, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
Um, yeah, yeah. Wow. Okay. So thinking about all the things that we've discussed, I think we've gone in this beautiful circle, and I want to come back to just kind of thinking about because you've already shared some ways to kind of, do some healing practices with yourself, somatic, and that
Mhm.
anybody can do Reiki if you learn the
Yeah.
practices, but it is sacred. But thinking about that deeper self awareness, do you have any simple practices that you would recommend for just balancing out this conversation, maybe with the nervous system regulation or just deeper self awareness that you want to share with listeners and viewers?
I think groundedness is really everything. So if you want to join me and just rubbing your hands together for a minute to warm off your healing hands,
Mm-hmm.
you could do it pretty briskly until you feel like a tingling sensation. You could spread your hands apart for a minute and almost feel
Mm-hmm.
like you're holding this beautiful globe or an orb of light between them. And you could expand that light or you could shrink that light. And then just place one hand over your heart and the other over your abdomen, because
Mm,
these are the major organs, but it's a major chakra system where we hold a lot, where we store a lot of energy. Some
mm,
energy belongs to us, but most of it doesn't. So you just want to close your eyes for a minute and drop into your inner space. And you can imagine or envision this beautiful white light that only takes about a second. And this beautiful white light right above you, or maybe a golden sunlight is starting to sparkle and shine and radiate and kind of move a little closer to you. And see if you could just breathe that light in now and feel it pouring into the top of your crown and then just radiating and saturating and just spreading all the way down from the top of you through your third eye, your throat, your face, your ears, the back of your eyes, and just feel that sense of peace and serenity moving down into your throat. And just imagining that light just cleansing, clearing, and purifying your entire system, cleaning and polishing all of your organs, your cells, your bloodstream. And then let that light travel all the way down, passing your heart, passing your gut, and just creating space, more breathing space, more room for you to stretch out, to do the inner work, to embody that inner peace and space and grace. And now allow that ray of light or that column of light to move all the way down past your womb, your lower belly, beneath your navel, and let it just separate into two columns of light into your legs. And that light is energizing, it's invigorating, it's sending these rays of warmth and support. And it's just softening your muscles, relaxing your knees now, your calves, your feet, your toes, and just wrap that light all around your feet and ankles. And then bring up another kind of light. If we envision a ruby red very radiant liquid light that can easily seep through the soles of our feet and move all the way up. At the same time as it's moving up our legs, lower body, middle body, upper body, the top of our head, we can feel that strength and that support and stability from Gaia, from the earth, from Pachamama, right? Our earth mother. Can feel that if we didn't have the mothering from our physical birth mother, we can feel that and then allow it to just rush up and give you a burst of fresh new energy and then move all the way down. Let it do a cosmic orbit from the back of you to the top to the bottom and let it just spin and spiral all around you, wrapping you in a nice cocoon of protective light. Feeling safe but grounded. Dig your feet, your toes, the soles of your feet firmly onto the crystalline grid beneath you. And I want you to just cross your arms together. So we're crisscrossing our neurocircuitry and just brush yourself off, almost like you are brushing off the surface of something that became tainted or muddied. Or you're just stroking or hugging yourself. You're caressing your skin. The skin loves that. You can even use your nails to give yourself a little kind of scratch, but gentle. And after you do this, this calms your nervous system. I want you to just rock from side to side. And you're holding your hands together. When you do this, you're connecting your mind with your body. And you're also uh, regulating your nervous system. So we just do this for a few minutes. You can even rub your hands together for a minute like this, but very slowly. And you can rock forward and backwards and really brush your face, your eyes, your temples, your head, your scalp, your ears, massaging your ears. That also regulates your nervous system, the sides of your neck, and give yourself Reiki, your forehead, the back of your head, the left and right side of your brain. Everything is creating balance and peace. And this is a universal Reiki position. One hand over the heart, the other over your abdomen, your power center. This is where we store all of our feelings. But this is where our emotional intelligence lies as well. So our intelligence and our power together so that they work in tandem. And if you don't have time to give every part of yourself Reiki, just do this. And this will allow you to return back to your center.
Mm.
That's it. And that took 5 minutes. How do you feel?
I feel very calm. I had a lot of tingling at first, and then my throat was having like I don't know what was going on there. I was trying to clear, and then it just kind
Mhm.
of melted away, and I feel good. I feel calm and
You feel more in your
cozy.
body than before, a little bit
Mm-hmm.
more inside than outside. So
Mm-hmm.
more inner focused than outer
Mm-hmm.
focused.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we're too outer focused, look what happens. We can lose our
Mm-hmm.
balance and fall,
Yeah.
literally or figuratively, fall from heaven.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to, however you want to look at that. But it's
Right.
true. It's about really being in our bodies. That's why we have a body. Our body is a gift. And maybe our ancestors weren't able to care for their body or honor their body, the wisdom of their
Mm-hmm.
body, but we can. We can do
Mm-hmm.
that for them to fulfill their unfulfilled wishes and desires and take
Mm-hmm.
better care of ourselves than they were able to. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
beautiful.
Well, this has been a beautiful conversation, Vandana. Do you have any listener takeaways as far as where people can learn more about you that you want to share?
Hmm. Absolutely. Thank you. So yeah, I have a website, vandanalighealing.com. And by the way, Vandana is my spiritual name that was given to me by an enlightened saint or avatar, enlightened
Mm,
master, ascended master. And her name is Amma or Amachi, Amrita,
mm,
she's a hugging saint from India. And so she gave me
mm,
this name many, many years ago, this sacred name. So I hope that I carry it proudly for her. Um, and so VandanaLightHealing.com, it's V like victory,
mm-hmm,
ANDANA, light healing. I do have a course coming up in a few days. Well, actually next week. I can send you
mm.
the link for that.
Okay.
And it is on my website on the homepage.
Okay.
And it is all about supporting and giving practical tips and guidance, everyday solutions to survivors of emotionally unavailable or neglectful parenting, um, and how we can reparent our own inner children.
Mm,
So that's Tuesday on the 20th at 12 noon Eastern.
okay. All right. Thank you.
So I hope everyone can benefit and join that. And if you can't, it's available on the replay.
Nice.
And
Okay.
also private sessions, inner child reparenting sessions. Some people can handle going deep depending on the level of complex trauma that you're carrying that's unprocessed. Some people feel safer when you just give them really practical, clear tips. I
Mm-hmm.
had a client earlier and she said, I love family constellation work. I love hypnotherapy, but I just really want practical tips. I'm like very left brain. So I have that too. So I
Mm-hmm.
have that too for people.
That's great. It's great to have
Yeah.
options. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on
Yes.
your show today, Kendra. It was a pleasure and an honor.
Yes. Vandana, thank you so much for sharing your presence, your lived experience, and your story today. Take
Thank
care.
you so much. You too.
This conversation felt like an invitation to soften, to trust divine timing, and to remember that healing doesn't need to be rushed to be profound. For listeners, I hope that this was a helpful episode that reminded you to tend to your inner child, your nervous system, and your energetic well-being. And in doing that work, it's not separate from creating a meaningful life. It's foundational. If this conversation resonated with you, I encourage you to sit with it. Notice what came up. Notice where your body softened or where something might have tightened. So in my EFT episode, number 40, back in October, I talked to Ann Hintz about how you can tell your body, let it go. And so in doing that tapping, you are working on that softening of the nervous system, of acknowledging. And that's what Ann Hintz talks about in that episode, and how she's learned how to put attention on the tension and then let it go. So notice where your body softened or where something stirred that may be asking for more attention to the tension. You can learn more about Vandana's work, recorded programs, and offerings through her website and library, all of which are available with a lifetime access. And I'll make sure I link it all in the show notes. As always, if you're in a season of slowing down, or the universe has been whispering to you and getting louder that you need to heal or you need to reimagine how you want to live and lead, you're not behind. You're right on time. And for more information on working with me, you just have to email me at coachingwithkendrachapman@gmail.com or go to my website, which is www.coachingwithkendrachapman.com. Thank you for being here and for choosing to listen to this podcast and for choosing to go slow so you can go fast when you're ready. I'll see you next time on the Go Slow to Go Fast Lifestyle Podcast. And remember, the light in me honors the light in you. And as you head into the rest of your week, let your light shine through. Go slow to go fast, and thanks for listening.